Death is slippery. It's hard to imagine this now, early in the 21st century, but as recently as the 19th, many people were obsessed with fear of premature burial, that they'd be declared dead too soon. Tapophobia, it's called. We now know that many conditions can cause what appear to be obvious death-like symptoms: shock, drugs, and hypothermia, to name three. So there was probably a good basis for the obsession. Nevertheless, the simple and observable fact of a heart and lungs not working anymore was the operative medical definition for a long time. Spiritual definitions vary, of course, but they all pretty much come down to the same thing. There's something somehow linked to the body that's got to break free, and until it does, life isn't over and death hasn't happened. Most religious death rituals pick up from this point and deal with the question of helping whatever it is to get out. Death got updated in 1981, officially. The medical reconsideration had begun decades earlier, but once those no longer so essential organs like hearts and lungs can be replaced by technology, where does that leave death? There were other factors too. Even death doesn't rate a presidential commission unless there's something at stake, like the high costs and the disproportionate claim on resources at the very end of life, and the organs to be harvested for needy living people. We needed some brand new ways of looking at death, made into laws. This is what they came up with. It doesn't look like much, but it was the beginning of Death 2.0. All the traditional measures remain, but the famous flat line, in practice, will become the main criteria, and with it, society moves from standards anyone can judge to unseen inner forces measurable only with exotic instruments. Death 2.0 is not a stable version yet, because exactly which unseen forces is still a matter of debate. By emphasizing the whole brain and specifically naming the brainstem, the Commission took a conservative position, arguing, essentially, that all brain parts are equal, and they've all got to flatline before it's over. Others would disagree, and the Commission knew it. Higher brain death advocates make their biases clear even in their choice of the word higher. Many believe that such abilities as memory, self-awareness, even consciousness itself, reside or at least are managed by the cerebral area of the brain, also called the cortical area. Current research seems to support this view. These abilities are considered higher by some relative to other abilities which are thus lower, things like breathing. The Commission replied to this higher-lower idea basically by saying that no one really knows what makes a person and where it lives, even if there is such a thing. While they argued among themselves over those words, Karen Quinlan was 5 years into a chapter of sufficient brain stem activity to maintain breathing, even though her cerebral area was irreversibly damaged. Repeat, she was breathing on her own. If it had sided with the higher brain position, the Commission would have been saying, that girl lying there breathing is dead, the end. They didn't say that. And they didn't take any position on where the seat of personhood is and what parts of us are any higher than any other. Things haven't changed much since 1981. Terri Schiavo was long gone by higher brain standards, but the brainstem rules kept her alive by definition. The public battle focused on the right to choose death, but first society needed a modern set of rules about who was or wasn't dead in the first place, and so we have them. The rules provide explicit guidelines to medical practitioners, which they need, while also reflecting society's preferences. While some may feel or talk differently, the idea of never giving up hope and prolonging life until the last neuron stops firing clearly has more appeal to more people than anything resembling a premature declaration. Death 2.0 might never stabilize, before we find ourselves unexpectedly in Death 3.0. The Commission specifically excluded a spiritual component from the definition when they left out what they called personal beliefs. The primary grounds for the exclusion were the unfortunate and mischievous results which would presumably occur as a result of non-uniformity. That might have worked in 1981, but it won't work forever. The same forces that have brought self-determination in the right to refuse treatments will bring a personal and what some would call spiritual perspective to the very definition of death. Death 2.0 is technology's short-lived triumph. Death 3.0, I think, will be the individual comeback.